American in lifestyle, global in spirit, Indian at heart. You're listening to Desi Tea Talks.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Desi Tea Talks. So, the one thing that all three of us bond over is food. We all love food. We love to try different things. But the one thing that really brings us close is Indian food. But Indian food can be really lavish, it can be very heavy, and sometimes kind of unhealthy. And even though it's okay to indulge once in a while, we can't do that every day. We're all conscious of what we put in our bodies on a day to day basis. So today's episode is going to focus on what we do and how we do to try to make Indian food specifically healthy. We're going to talk about some swaps, some methods, and we're going to give you some ideas on how you can try to make your day to day diet a little bit healthier. And so, as usual, we're here sipping on our cups of tea. So you go grab your favorite kind of beverage and join us in today's discussion. So let's just start with some swaps that we do on a daily basis. Aishwarya, do you want to get started?
Yes, I think one of my best swaps that I have recently started and I love it is my oats. I don't use rice as much as I used to before, and I think it really works wonders. I'm going to give you all an example in the end. So oats as a grain it's very rich in fiber, and if you replace, it doesn't taste as much as rice, but it has its own nice taste. You can try it for many different things. My favorite recipe is the oats khichdi that is like a staple. We do it every week. It's super healthy, cooks in like 15 minutes. So that's another, good part about this healthified cooking. It's fast, very healthy. I mean, my husband actually lost 25 pounds, and I have to really say I owe it to oats because I substituted his rice content totally. I even make uttapam, I make dosa out of oats. Sometimes I even do the banana pancakes or any of those sorts. It's just that oats in general is very mushy as a grain, but it tastes good. You just have to adapt to that taste. I mean, you can make those granola bars and cookies for your at-home snacks. We're all working from home. We need something healthy. So I've made one batch of those. I think for me, I think I'm going to start by saying oats is my go-to one.
Then no wonder we call her the oats lady. Yeah, that's her nickname now.
Yeah, I think my sister says if my husband goes and donates blood, and it's going to be like pouring oats.
So I actually do simple swaps. For me, it's really hard to cut out, rice completely or roti completely. But personally, me and my husband, both of us don't eat Indian food every day. So for us, it's not that big of a deal. But every little things that I do, for example, instead of white rice, we prefer to use brown rice. And now this is a very controversial topic because a lot of people say, well, the calorie intake is the same. But it's not really about calories when it comes to healthy food, especially for me. It's more about the nutrient density. And brown rice is less processed. And what that does is basically you get more nutrition, you get more fiber. So that's kind of important to me more than just cutting down calories. So for me, that's a big substitution. I pretty much only use brown rice when it comes to rice. Or the other thing I do, and this is again very controversial to a lot of Indians, especially, is use cauliflower rice. And this is such a big trend now. I know you guys are going to start laughing, and everybody may not agree with this. And it's not something that you do every day. It's just when you know you've been doing rice every day, you just try to cut it down. And so cauliflower, just pulsing it in a food processor, and now you just get pre-made bags of those in almost every grocery store now. And you just eat that with, if you're eating with a lentil curry or just any curry, you use cauliflower rice. But I don't use it as frequently. I use it when I realize that I am eating rice too much, and that's when I try to add one day of cauliflower rice. And honestly, to me, I mean, it doesn't feel like cauliflower or something. I actually enjoy it. As if I do it every day, I'm probably going to get bored of it. So I think the key here is, if you think you're doing too much of one thing, it's better to kind of use substitutions every day, every other day. So that's one of my big ones.
I think moderation is the key, right? What you said. I mean, we cannot cut rice is something we grew up eating. We will never be able to substitute rice. Same here. I mean, I do oats, but I don't do it all the time. And you have to always moderate it. And to your point, Manasi, like you do brown rice, I do brown sugar. once you get used to the taste, it actually tastes good. I like that over regular sugar that I would use otherwise.
Yeah, and I mean, sugar is a topic that I could go on for forever. There's keto, like there's
Hold on, Parija is here with the boba tea.
I love my sugar, man. I love my boba teas, and I try to find a way to make them healthy, but
Well, that's what I'm trying to say. So, sugar specifically, there's so many sugar varieties or sugar substitutes now, but they're not always healthy, right? Now, stevia is actually a plant. If you use the stevia leaf itself instead of adding sugar to your coffee or tea, if you drop in a leaf of stevia, it's excellent. There's nothing like it. But there's other things if you just want to use, in baking, for example, another substitute, or just in cooking our kheer or something when you add a ton of sugar or something. Another substitute, which is sort of on the expensive side and not as well known, is monk fruit sweetener. And it's a keto friendly sugar. It has zero calories, and it's actually, it has no side effects. It has nothing, and it's a great substitute for sugar.
Yeah, I've tried that. I would definitely recommend.
Yeah.
My story would be, we love Indian food, and I cook at least 3 to 4 times a week of Indian food. And my husband being from Indore and grew up in Punjab, so he absolutely loves his gravies and curries. And I mean, yes, gravies and curries are very rich and very kind of sound very unhealthy, but we always find our way to make it healthy ones. So my go-to vegetable to make that, like especially the tikka masalas and saag paneers, like the very popular ones. I mean, everybody wants to order at the Indian restaurants. They obviously taste very good because at the restaurants, they always use the methods of adding cornstarch or adding creams or something like that. But cooking at home, it's not feasible every day with that restaurant style of food. So I always like to use mushroom paste. Like I just saute some mushrooms and I puree them, and then I use it to thicken the gravies. And funny enough, if I told my husband that I put mushrooms in it, he probably won't eat it. But guess what? I mean, it's you can totally have it, and it does not taste at all like mushrooms, which is amazing because he doesn't even know that there are mushrooms in it. But
I think, Parija, your husband won't eat food without jeeravan. Mushroom would.
No.
If you put jeeravan on top of it, he'll eat anything.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, jeeravan is a very specific masala that you get in Indore. I haven't seen it much outside, but it's a very specific masala. Just add it on top. You don't have to cook it. It's just like add it as a garnish.
It's kind of like a blend of different spices, and it's a little bit tangy. So it's kind of like what you get chaat masala in places. It's a different version of that. And it's just really savory, and it just adds a lot of flavor to anything that you add to.
Yeah.
Right. Palak paneer is one of our favorite vegetable curries to eat, and of course some of the palak paneer is definitely healthy with spinach and everything. But I always like to add like coarse peanuts, like the peanut powder into it, just to make it healthy. I mean, being an athlete, like I grew up as an athlete, and everybody used to be like, what do you do? Like, Indian food is like just it's only greens, like greens and carbs. Like, how do you get your proteins from? And peanuts is my basic answer. I mean, a lot of people say that you should be eating like almonds and all kinds of nuts. Not everybody can afford to eat that much amount every day. So peanuts was my thing, like a handful of peanuts and a handful of like roasted chana. Do you guys know that roasted chana? Those like in those old Bollywood movies, like the hero or the villain would like eat it, and then you'd be like, oh, that. Growing up, I was like, oh, maybe that's how they get their superpower or something like that. So the roasted chana and peanuts would be like my biggest addition to our meals every single day.
I think it's a very important point that you brought up here, Parija. It's about protein intake. How much protein you search healthified cooking, or you search anything about healthy, the first thing people start going on is how much protein you should have. As a woman, you should have 56 grams of protein. It's a very personal thing how much protein is required for your body. Like, you are an athlete, you need it way more than what I need for my desk job. But in general, we tend to forget the fact that protein is so important. We forget that there are so many other sources for protein that we just ignore. The Greek yogurt is such a great example. Just one box of that small little Chobani Greek yogurt, I think, has some 12 grams or something. I may be wrong, but what I'm trying to say is just substituting smaller things, just adding smaller things in your regular routine, a yogurt or broccoli or those boiled eggs, maybe, one each has 8 grams of protein. So you don't have to make that 56 mark, but at some time you have to always make that conscious effort of adding protein. Yeah. And yes, I have done the almond thingy every day. I make my husband and me both eat almonds every day, so we'll try to add that into our routine.
And I think that's another common thing that people aren't aware of. Indian diet is not necessarily 100% vegetarian.
Yeah.
Me and Aisha, for example, are vegetarian, but Parija is not. So you don't have to be eating vegetables and curries and trying to find protein sources. You can always be eating, your chicken or meats, and you can get your protein sources from there. But for us growing up, some of us grew up vegetarian, some of us didn't. I personally didn't grow up vegetarian, but lentils form an everyday meal for us. And it has such a high protein count that we never had to worry about it. Beans, legumes, so many protein choices. Is tofu, and that's something I'll do. Like Parija mentioned, saag paneer. Paneer, if you know, it's a kind of cottage cheese that's actually really savory and thick and creamy and delicious, and it's such an Indian staple. Everybody loves it if you've had it one time. But one of the swaps that I do is to swap paneer with tofu. And again, that's another controversial thing. Oh my gosh, is that much soy good for you, especially if you're not a woman, because the whole thing about estrogen and all of that. But again, everything in moderation. I don't eat soy or tofu a lot, but that's a good substitution because tofu is a great source of protein when consumed in moderation, and it's really low in calories and fat. So if you're trying to go that route, it's a great substitute for a lot of the Indian curries and vegetables that we eat a lot.
I think I would agree here. Paneer is by far, so everybody in Indian households say, oh, you should eat all this much paneer. Paneer is all the protein. So that's a very common misconception. Paneer is not the only source of protein. There are so many other options available. My husband grew up eating only paneer, so I know that feeling. Tofu,
we know that too. all we have to cook for him is paneer whenever he comes over. So
yeah. So
it's really hard to branch out when Aishwarya's husband comes over. It's like, oh, I'm just gonna make paneer. It's easy. Otherwise, I have to play the guessing game what he's gonna like or not. But I think he's come a far ways from what he used to be before.
Oh yeah, totally. Kudos to myself. So I really like the taste of tofu. So I don't have to necessarily eat paneer all the time. 1 week it's paneer, 1 week it's tofu, or sometimes it's just shahi tofu for some reason. It's a
tofu is it's a plain canvas, right? Anything you add to it, it'll basically absorb that flavor.
Yeah.
So you can flavor it however you want. I know today's topic is Indian cooking, but I could list you like 100 different ways of how you could make tofu in 100 different cuisines. Well, maybe not 100 different cuisines, that's an exaggeration, but you can make it. It's so versatile. It's one of those vegetables like cauliflower. I said it's such a blank piece, like canvas, that you can just make it your own however you want it.
Yeah, we'll do one episode for cauliflower rice and tofu.
Yeah, totally. I think like part of eating healthy is also like eating less salt and sodium, you all agree with it. So like recently I've been spending a lot of time in my kitchen and kind of, finding my ways around it. And I really found that just by including just a little bit more of lime and cilantro, just lime and cilantro, and that will like really help you, make you use less salt, basically, is what I'm trying to say, is that it's a really good sub for salt, is my point.
Yeah, and sodium, like the greatest thing about making food at home is you control the sodium quantity that goes into your food. And yes, it makes everything delicious. We talked about jeera, but I can guarantee you that has a ton of sodium in it. But it is important to, whatever age you are, to just be conscious of these things. So adding less salt, and like Parija said, adding lime and cilantro. I know they have no salt content, but you'd be surprised by how much flavor it adds. It's a flavor boost, so you don't miss that,
Mm-hmm.
extra salt that you think you need. You really don't need it. You can just boost up the flavors by, adding herbs, adding lime, adding some tang, and I think that really helps, boost up your food flavor.
Salt is a very sensitive topic because I really do not like the fact that once the food is served, we just keep going like salt, salt, salt. I mean, they have to make that conscious effort of not eating too much of salt and all this. With all the Indian pickles have so much of salt too, right? So that moderation needs to be there. And don't even get me started on the MSG content, because I'm so obsessed with how much MSG content we just eat without making that effort to not eat it. So I totally agree, Parija. Salt is something, and especially in the Indian cooking, we have to be very mindful of.
I mean, also one thing, Aishwarya, I think lately I've been missing your Rajma rice posts on Instagram.
Should get back at it.
I think so. I think oats are keeping you way too busy over Rajma rice,
So,
right?
actually, speaking of Rajma rice, so Mansi talked about the pulses and how much dal we eat in our daily life in the Indian cooking, right? It's something that I've recently realized is the importance of using the right butter. So dals, all the legumes, these kidney beans, all these kinds of beans they need the right fat to actually digest properly in our body. So I've changed my Rajma rice recipe to actually use ghee instead of the regular oil that I was using before. And ghee is not necessarily just fattening, it actually helps digest that food way better than what it would otherwise. So if you're eating dal makhni, normal dal, rajma rice, just if you cook it in ghee, it just adds a whole lot of value to your food. So my
Yeah,
rajma
and
with ghee now, Parija, come over.
we all love Aishwarya's Rajma rice. But to her point, ghee is, it's so trending right now. Everybody knows about ghee now all over the world. Everybody knows about the how good fats help your body digest food, and ghee is one of them. But it's also such an amazing flavor booster.
Yeah,
Obviously, you can use it instead of oil, but just to finish dishes, right? Even if you make a simple thing like khichdi, which is basically like a
yeah,
rice and lentil mix, you just add not even a tablespoon, a little bit of ghee to it to finish it off. You won't believe the amount of flavor that adds to the dish,
yeah.
and that goes for almost every single curry, even non-vegetarian dishes. It adds so much flavor. So highly recommend using that in your daily cooking. And again, everything in moderation. We're not saying put a ton of it on all your rotis and parathas, but everything in moderation. It's a great fat to have in your daily diet.
Yes, fat that Indian mommies recommend that, oh, all the
Yeah.
women should have ghee in the world. So,
Talking about ghee, I really want to give a shout out to one of my friends in Pittsburgh. His name is Raj, and we all call him the Gheewala of New York. And I gotta say, I trust his cows way more than the chemists. So yes, ghee wins over refined oils any day.
We all got to make friends with this Raj person. They can
Yes,
control
yes.
us.
yeah, I
Yes,
think I tried that ghee. Yeah, it was a
yeah,
tasty.
it's called the Vrindavan Ghee. I'm
Yeah.
gonna admit, like from all the brands I've tried, I'm not being biased towards my friends here, but it's pretty pure, and I've been like gotten used to it now, so I'm really enjoying that.
That's the one I used too. I don't
Oh,
remember
really?
now, but I think so. It sounds very familiar. Yeah, and just like simple substitutions, like just, try using a little bit of honey instead of a lot of sugar. I mean, we gave some alternatives for
Mhm.
sugar, but honey is a good one. I mean, if you are, not a vegan and you eat honey, then honey is a great substitution. Just a little bit, it'll do enough sweetness, and it's a natural form. So you're not using anything that's processed a ton, which is always good for your body.
Agreed. And I think something I want to just tell this to our viewers that all of us have learned this throughout our journey of cooking. So I definitely know I cooked the most unhealthy food in the world when I started off. I did not know how much oil to put. I did not know what kind of utensils to use. If you use a non-stick, you use way less oil. So that's something I really did not realize early on. So it's all self-learned. So by no means we are like dietitians or nutritionists.
Yeah.
It's all of our self-learned facts, and we want to share our experiences with you. So yeah, we'd love to hear from you guys also about that.
Yeah, definitely. Big disclaimer. We're not by no means giving you nutritional advice or anything. This is just what we've learned so far from our journey being by ourselves living here. We were just Like for example, I came here to America as a student, and I never cooked in India growing up, and so I kind of just learned on my own, did my own thing in the beginning, and now I feel pretty confident in the kitchen, and I've just I'm very happy that I cook my own food now because I know exactly what's going in my body, and I enjoy cooking thoroughly.
Oh, Manasi, we love your cooking, and the most I love about is your air fryer recipes. I mean, they are bomb. You are like the air frying queen. And funny enough, like if any of my other friends ask about like a recommendation for air frying, I was like, oh, my friend in California, she's like an air fryer queen. That's like my first example I give to everybody. So, what is like your most favorite things, or like what do you really use your air fryer for? Because Indian food, like, talk about samosas.
Before she goes, I know what her husband uses the air fryer for.
Oh, I want to know what did this.
The only time her husband actually cooked something for us when I was there was the tater tots that he made in the air fryer.
That's not making, that's just reheating them. I'm pretty sure he just used frozen tater tots or something. But honestly, you know how Indian households, it's common to have like the rolling pin and what you roll on the countertop that you roll on, that's commonly placed on the counter. In my house, it's the air fryer. I love the air fryer. Oh my gosh, it's such a blessing. I remember when I first moved into this house, but he just like, what do you want as a housewarming present? I'm like, I want an air fryer. I want a big air fryer, because I had a little one at the time, and she actually kindly bought me my air fryer, and I've been using it. Well, I don't want to say every day, every other day at least, but I literally roast everything and anything I can lay my hands on. I roast vegetables in it, potatoes. I even put broccoli in it just to like crisp it up a little bit when I'm sure, and it does it so fast. You won't believe the things that. So I do not like frying at all. If I was cooking, you'll never see me. I'll either be baking it or I'll be putting it in my air fryer if I can. And so literally, like even like samosas or something, I'll put it in the air fryer. Anything and everything that you can, unless it's a wet batter, anything can be air fried. If it's a wet batter, I'll give another option later. But when it comes to the air fryer, I think just roasting vegetables, potatoes and sweet potatoes, cook up in absolutely no time, and it turns out delicious and crispy every single time. Definitely vouching for the air fryer.
Yeah, I think I love the air fryer that I've been using. It's been almost 4 years, but my air fryer cooking is not because of choice. It's because I cannot fry. I just find it too cumbersome. If there's any frying that has to happen in my house, it has to be my husband. He has to do it. So Paricha loves puris, and whenever she comes, I make puri, but my husband is the one who's frying it.
That is true.
Yeah, but I cannot fry. Like I just am so scared of it. I don't know. I can't see the boiling oil. But air fryer, like you said, Manasi, anything that is not wet, it just comes out so good. Something very interesting. I even tried making those little papadis, those little crackers that we use. It's not too bad, you can actually make them in air fryer, and you don't have to go through the whole hassle of frying them. So one healthy snack.
Yeah, and then another thing that you would normally bake, and baking is another great way to cooking food as opposed to cooking it under a ton of oil or frying. But if it's really hot and you really don't want to turn your oven on top of everything, the air fryer is such a great option when you're just cooking for 2 people, and it cuts the time literally in half. Like, you won't believe it. It's so amazing.
Yeah, I actually the most I've used my air fryer for is for making koftas for the malai kofta recipe. Now, the malai kofta sounds like very rich and, creamy.
Malai.
Malai, right? So, of course, I do the malai part pretty, pure, and I do use malai in it. But koftas, I'll make the koftas and fry them in the air fryer. And it does take a little while, but it comes out really crispy, nice and brown. It's completely cooked, and you just dip it into the gravy, and it's perfect. I mean, if you eat it, you will not even notice whether you have fried it, or like if you have deep fried it, or if you have fried it in the air fryer. So
that's actually pretty cool, because I actually tried to make Manchurian, the
Mm-hmm.
Indian,
The balls,
it's actually Indo-Chinese, it's a fusion food. So it's like these balls basically of vegetables and like sauces, and you basically crisp it up. It's these crispy balls that you kind of put it in a gravy, but those balls are usually deep fried. I actually made those in the air fryer, and it turned out great. Like I had no problem. Like it turned out delicious.
I'm actually gonna try your malai kofta recipe. I never tried that. The last thing that I cooked on air fryer was the curry pakoda. So I actually make Punjabi curry very often, and I wanna make it healthy. So I actually make my pakodas in air fryer. So little hint of
Oh, that's neat. Yeah.
Does the batter not stick to the?
no, I don't use the very wet batter for
Oh, okay.
pakoda. I make the steady ones. I mean,
Oh, okay.
it's my food. I just try to make the easy
Yeah,
version.
whatever you
Yeah.
enjoy. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. I mean, traditionally, it's made with a wet batter. It has to be deep fried and all of that. Of course, I do all kinds of shortcuts possible. So, yes, this is air
And
fryer.
it's healthy, so yeah.
Air fryer is a healthy version. It's a shorter version of cooking. Like, I really
Why
cannot
not?
spend too much time doing the same thing in the kitchen because it's too boring on a daily basis for me. Yeah.
My another favorite utensil, sorry, not the utensil, the cookware is, I don't know what the English word for it is, but it's the Uppam Pan.
Uppam Pan, I was gonna say
Uppam
that.
Pan.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yes, and I recently figured out how to use it, and I literally make like vada pav. It's very mini vada, mini vadas, and then the sabudana vada, which is also again a deep fried thing, and I mean I use it. It's like a really mini. It's like it looks like a mini golf ball or something like that. It's that small, but I absolutely love it, and it's cast iron, so it gives a good feel. It tastes really good, and it's been my new favorite thing for the last 3 weeks. Yeah.
It never
So,
occurred to me you could make like vada on this one. I'm gonna try this.
So, I was saying that, for the wet batter, I have another option that I'll tell later. I was actually going to talk about the Uppam Pan. So Uppam Pan is basically like a pan with like these divots in it. And that's, like a circular divots in it. They're like little ones. And so you make the same way you make your, being a Bombay girl, I love my vada pav. It's basically like a fried potato ball that you put between a slice of bread. So good. So that fritter is obviously fried. So what I do is make it the same way, and I make really small ones, and then you have to make a wet batter using chickpea flour, and I put it in that, and then you just flip it and it cooks. I thought, and it was crispy and crunchy on the outside. It's just the only thing you have to be careful about with that is you make your batter a little thin. So it's a thin layer around it. You can't make it too thick because then it won't cook evenly. So there's a trick to it, but it turns out amazing. And I also make these like breakfast rava idli sort of in those, and it cooks up really fast. You can make so many little like fried things in that, and it cooks amazing. And you can actually now even get it on Amazon, pretty sure.
Yes, you do. That's where I bought it. So.
Oh, I actually got mine in India.
So I think Parija and Mansi are going to do a video for all the dishes that they were talking about.
Yes. Let us know if you'd like to see that in the comments down below. Maybe we'll do a YouTube only video for that. We have so many different ideas in that.
Yeah. So speaking of appliances, my very go-to appliance is the Instant Pot. What do you think, ladies?
Love it.
First of all, the fear of that whistle or that pressure cooker going in my kitchen, like I've seen a pressure cooker fly. So most of you already guessed that I really get scared easily. So that was one of the go-to things, that this thing will never burst no matter what. So scientifically, that thing is never going to explode in my house. And then I think it's very easy to control and time your cooking with the Instant Pot. So all the rajma rice, the pulses, and all the dals that are going in my house, Instant Pot is such a great blessing in the life.
Yeah, and I think it cuts the time down to, I know it takes time to build the pressure, but I think even then, I feel like you don't have to pay attention to it. You have to turn the stove off, you put the timer on, it goes, it's done, it's cooked in no time. And I know one of the things, other benefits is, even if you don't soak, like all these legumes and beans and lentils that we usually use in Indian cooking should be soaked. And I will explain why I think soaking is really crucial. But even if you forget to soak for whatever reason, soak them in water, you can cook it in Instant Pot and it'll still cook really, really fast and cook it still very well. So that's another advantage of the Instant Pot. But I still highly recommend soaking your legumes and beans, because that helps with the digestion of these beans
Yeah.
and pulses. So it's important to soak them. So we'll never say don't soak it, but if you're in a pinch, the Instant Pot will still work.
Yeah, in the grandma's words, if you soak the legumes, if you soak the beans, it's going to get rid of all the toxins and your body will have the best quality beans going into it. But
My favorite feature about Instapot is like, how you can put it to cook and then it'll stay warm for like 12 hours or something. That is my favorite one because a lot of times, we would just put something in and then come back after work and have it and the food stays warm and not really worried about it going bad on the countertop or things like that. So fun. A lot of people use it to make yogurt and everything. I have not tried that yet, but a lot of people who started using that, they find it like a healthier option as compared to the ones that they buy in the stores.
Yeah. Yeah, I've actually tried even making idli in it and it works great. Like all these functions. Yeah, I don't have an idli maker, but I do have the insert.
okay.
So I just put the insert in the Instant Pot and the steamer function and it works perfectly. And like the Instant Pot, because it can do multiple things, right? So it does the sauteing in the beginning. So you don't have to saute. You know how with the slow cooker and stuff, that's the hard part. You don't really get the sear. But in an Instant Pot, you can just saute everything and then put your, like the tadka that we say, it's basically like this tempering that you give to curries to add flavor with the spices. You can do that, in advance and just let it cook with it. And it's one pot meal. That's it. And who doesn't love less dishes?
I never tried the idli actually. I'm going to try it. I should have made notes today. You girls have
Yeah.
a lot of good recipes. But I think it really works for our lifestyle, right? We're all busy. I mean, we love to eat, we love to cook, we want to eat the healthy food, but we're so busy with our lifestyles. The fact that you can put something on the cook mode, still go and come back and not have the house put on fire is a great, great thing. So Instant Pot, definitely, I really love it, and I love to make my veggie broths, like my soups and everything in Instant Pot. Just leave it; it keeps cooking, it's ready. So yeah, one more thing.
Nice.
Yeah, and if nothing else works, you have your oven. If you you don't need any of these gadgets or equipment or utensils. Your oven will do the trick too. It just takes a little bit longer, but that's how I used to roast everything in the oven. Even for example, chicken. When I make, I'm vegetarian, but my husband eats meat. So if I make chicken curry, for example, I always pre-bake. I make the curry on the stove, but I bake my chicken. I marinate it however I want it, whatever I'm cooking, depending on whatever I'm cooking. And I roast it in the oven for however long, depending on what kind of meat it is. And then I add it with the juices in the gravy, and it works miraculously every single time. You could just add the chicken into the gravy, but just taking this extra step, it's still healthy because it's being baked. I don't use a ton of oil or anything, and it still does the trick. And speaking of the curries, I think the greatest substitution of all for cream is yogurt, right, girls?
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
But you gotta give a try to mushrooms too. Just say.
Yes, yes, definitely.
Yeah, I'm gonna try mushrooms, but very true, Manasi. And so how I learned using yogurt was there's a blogger, Swasti. It's Swasti's Healthy Cooking. She has a blog. I'll write down in the comments. So I was a fan of Mughlai food. Growing up in Delhi, that's what you eat, all the Shahi styles of curries and gravies. It's when I was reading her blogs, I realized that during the time of Mughals, tomatoes was not really the most popular and the most easily available vegetable. So you basically use yogurt to make those gravies thick. And once you get used to using yogurt, you really cannot go back. It's very tasty. It's very thick. There are so many kinds of yogurt. You can just melt it the way you want. But great source of thick gravies and great source of nutrition too. You don't need to add those thick creams all the time.
Right, and that's what I do. I use Greek yogurt. You already have your protein right there. And the key to yogurt is to avoid from, separation.
Yeah.
You actually turn off your stove right before adding it, mix it in and let it just come to temperature, and then you put the stove back on and then cook it with the food, and that really helps it separating. People have that issues when they try to cook with yogurt, and it makes it creamy and thick, and I think it really works as a great substitute for cream. I don't think the need to add cream at all. So girls, I think this is one topic we'll all agree that we could probably go on for hours on end. So We will probably do another part 2 of this episode. Let us know if you'd like that. You can always email us at desitalks@gmail.com, or you can go follow us on all the social media platforms at Desi Tea Talks. So for today, I think we'll call it the end. We also have a YouTube channel, so go subscribe there. We will be uploading the video of this podcast over there. Hit the like button, click that notification bell, and we will see you very soon. Cheers. Bye.